In this particular segment, I want to speak to you about Colonial America. The Bible says, "Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations." Jeremiah 1:5. Our forefathers came to this continent and to America in search of freedom. The freedom to believe God and to worship Him according to the dictates of their consciences and understanding of His Word. They were willing to risk a dangerous journey across an oftentimes violent ocean in primitive shipping vessels to get to America. They forsook families, their homeland, and the security of familiar friends and occupations to start a new life in a wilderness area, one which they had never seen before. To say it would take courage would be an understatement. Many never saw their homelands again. They left mothers and fathers in England and other faraway places with only a dream: to be free, to be able to worship God without fear of the monarchy. The abysmal, dysfunctional state church arrangements in Europe served as the impetus to seek a new way of life, free from despotism and corrupt church leaders. Truly, God had shed His grace upon America. From these humble beginnings, the growth of the 13 colonies, 4 New England, 4 middle colonies, and 5 southern colonies, has developed what we know and recognize as the beginnings and the genesis of America. America, as I have often said, was birthed in freedom. You know, the Bible says, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. God made man in His own image, and we were to live in freedom. We were never to be in bondage. You recall how that the Psalm 137, where the Jewish people were taken into Babylonia, and there they couldn't even sing because they were far from homes. About 20,000 of those Jewish people had been taken captive. 100,000 were left in Judah. But yet they felt so lonely, depressed, they just said, well, we're going to put our harps on the willows. Well, the America that we know about, this from these very primitive beginnings, the America was able to take on the power of the English fleet. They wrote a document called the Declaration of Independence that stands even to this day as a statement of all that we hold dear. This document was signed with men stating publicly that with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives and our fortunes and our sacred honor. Our values have shaped our actions. Every right we acknowledge as coming from God. Although not every person could be called a Christian believer back then, each one attested to the general principles of Christian living as being the most productive means of achieving harmony and tranquility in the New World. They attested to the axiom that government is instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And I believe that this document, this organic document that we call the Declaration of Independence, where they stated emphatically when, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitled them. A decent respect for the opinions of mankind requires that they declare the causes which impel them to the separation. They went on to say, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Can you believe that this tiny nucleus that landed at Plymouth Rock in Massachusetts and had the first government structure in the Mayflower Compact, they survived the arduous winter. And I might ad lib to say this, 45 of those that had traveled lost their lives during that time because they used the Mayflower, as you might say, as their only place to stay. It would have been their motel or their hotel, and they had to leave the ship and do whatever and get their food and yet return to it. It was the most difficult time. But you know what? They did this under the most difficult conditions and helped start a new country, unlike any country that has ever been before or since. Their governing instrument, this Mayflower Compact, stated clearly that what would be the order of the day and what would be acceptable and what would be unacceptable. I'm very amazed and always impressed with the tenacity and with the structure of this new government. These are just parts of our beginnings.